Welcome again. This is Johnny Torch bringing you Johnny Torch Live, number 12. A little something different today, a little something special. Our Torch News Roundup for the first time. It's been a while in between Torch News Roundups, and I think it's easier to just do it live, even though I pride myself on having a lot of images and so forth, and that's what actually took me a little longer in preparation today. I know I said the show was going to start at 6, and here it is, 6:30. Well, 6:35 Eastern Standard Time. But, I pride myself on making a great presentation. I can't just put a slipshod product out there, but we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. As much stuff as I could find and squeeze into maybe a little less than an hour program. Try to shoot for about an hour, even though I don't know how many people actually are watching. Not too many people seem to caught into the live shows. I don't know. I think the Torch News Roundup also is, you know, touch and go. That's another reason why I want to do them live, I think, because the more views I get on videos are usually the produced ones, which is doing reasonably well for me. Some of my horror videos have taken off pretty good, especially the Phantom of the Opera ones. You should check that one out. The Wonder Woman retrospective, of course, doing very well. So, I think maybe the Torch News Roundup here live, which means it's going to be difficult for me to show numbers. This is Johnny Torch Live number 12, and this is also the Torch News Roundup number 54. Lucky number 54. Said we are going to tackle a bunch of subjects here as much as time will permit. And where shall we begin? We shall begin. There's a lot of news coming out in various areas. Oh, before we start, I think I'll begin with the Mayweather-Conor McGregor fight going to be going down in a few hours. If you are watching this live, and you probably aren't, check out my Twitter page. I've got a poll up for anybody that's interested in this fight. So far, the votes stand at 50-50, with 28 votes cast. Half of you think Mayweather, half of you think McGregor. So if you want to be that deciding vote, the poll will be open for about another 3 hours as of now at 6:30. So vote and see if you are going to break that tie. Personally, you see, I don't watch MMA, so I'm not very familiar with McGregor. I would probably take Mayweather in this fight. I mean, the guy's undefeated. He's been around quite a while now, so, you know, I don't know if maybe his skills have diminished. I'm a big boxing fan, but can't say that I've followed it too closely. Because pay-per-view and HBO, Showtime, I don't have those, and I can't follow the big upper echelon fighters. Of course, I've seen Mayweather fight. He's great, one of the greats. So I'd give the advantage to him, but McGregor sounds like he's the real deal from the live, being a great MMA fighter. So this should be a good one. Wish I could see it, but I ain't gonna pay $60 for a fight. I did when I was a kid, I guess, but there's better ways to spend that money. But anyway, so check out my Twitter page, vote in the poll if you are so inclined, and I will check it at the end of the broadcast here and see if anything has changed. But as I said, as of now, it stands 50-50. Most of you guys are split on fight. Who's going to have the great outcome? Okay. So, continuing on here now. If you can hear the sound of the mouse that is faulty that I'm still using here, if that is distracting. All right, let's see, because I've got to pull up my images that I spent so long getting ready in the news. With the news about Scorsese produced, not directed, but produced origin solo film. Do we really need a solo Joker origin film? I mean, as attractive as the prospects may be with Martin Scorsese producing, do we really need a Joker origin film? I mean, isn't that the purpose of the character, that mystery, an enigma, so to speak? Not to be confused with a Riddler. But you're not supposed to know anything about his history. He changes his history at will whenever he recounts it. And, it's pretty counterintuitive, I think, or counterproductive to try to give him an origin. Of course, this film will be directed by Todd Phillips, not Martin Scorsese, but having the flavor of a Scorsese film, a gritty origin of how he became the Joker. It's supposed to be an Elseworlds film also. So this is the confusing thing. If this is not really set in the DCEU that we all know now, I believe, I'm not sure how the math would work out. That might be possibly Leto's age if he became the Joker when he was like, I don't know, 18, 20. That's a possibility. Although I always saw the Joker getting, becoming the Joker a little bit older than that. But I don't know. If this doesn't fit in with the Jared Leto version of the Joker that exists now in the DCEU, what's the point really of it? I mean, we might just as well watch Gotham, and you can see Jerome doing the same thing, being the kid that becomes the Joker. Um, it's just an excuse, really, I guess, for more violence and stuff that I really don't need to see. Well, as I've said before, that's the blessing and curse of Logan, where now everybody and their brother is going to try to put out the grim and gritty, dark, violent superhero movie. And really, in order to do that, you have to go to supervillains, and that's why we're getting Venom, we're getting the Joker, Daisy, wanting to jump on board this project. So, personally, I'm not really all that enthused about it. I don't think we really need a Joker solo origin story. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm just popping out the chat here in case anybody wants to comment. Uh, are they going to have the Batman in this one? That's another thing. That's is this going to be the first meeting between Batman and the Joker? For it to be called a Joker solo film, I don't think Batman will be involved, unless it's going to be some kind of cameo at the very end to set up this is how they became adversaries. They already went on record saying Jared Leto will not be playing the Joker, but obviously this is going to be a young Joker. I think probably about the age of, like I said, Jerome in Gotham. We're going to see an 18-year-old, 18 to 22 maybe year old guy playing the Joker. A lot of people suggesting maybe William Dafoe would be great as the Joker. William Dafoe is what, in his late 50s now or something? I don't know. So he's not going to get cast. I mean, he would be a good Joker, but that's not going to happen here. As I said, the character of the Joker needs to remain a mystery. You're not supposed to know who he is. You're not supposed to know his background or where he came from. And I'd love to see it, is that he was the Red Hood, fell into that vat of chemicals, in some tellings of the story because of Batman, which, I would like to see that. And it transforms him into the Joker. His persona before that is unknown. Going to be this telling of the Red Hood story and the Joker's first encounter with Batman while he's the Red Hood before he goes insane. I would be down for it. I would honestly be down for it if this was going to be an honest to goodness where you don't find out. That was my problem with Batman 89. The Joker origin was great. The way he fell into the chemicals and, you know, that's what gave him his madness. He wasn't a crazy person until then. He wears the red hood, he falls into the chemicals, and he takes off the red hood, and he sees this image, this ghastly image in his face of what he looks like now, and he goes mad. And I think, to his credit, even though I'm not a huge fan of the Tim Burton Batman, I think we get that in spades with the Joker and Nicholson's performance when he pulls off the bandages and he just loses it. And you kind of feel for him at that point. Gone mad. Of course, he's an unhinged person before this. It's not just that, but that's the catalyst that makes him go crazy. And that's where the Joker is born, right then and there. It's not, I don't want to see him with his wife. I don't want to see him father. I don't want to see him in the garage as an 8-year-old. He's just some kind of low-level hood caught up in a bigger than was probably, feasible for him to do. And he ends up taking the fall, becoming the Joker, and that's when the light goes off in his head. That's when he becomes the evil mastermind that we all know and love, and love to hate, I suppose, is, the appropriate term. But that's what I want out of a Joker solo origin movie. I mean, just give me the mystery. Put it together as a mystery. That's one of the reasons why I don't really like Batman 89. Another reason, and this is becoming a mini review of Batman 89, because arguably they did the Joker movie. I mean, the origin. I mean, that Batman 89 is basically the Joker. If you want to say a Joker solo movie, we've got one in Batman 89. That's basically what that movie is, and that's why I kind of have problems with it. I mean, I like Michael Keaton. Nicholson does great. But it's basically the Joker's movie. Of the movie is who is Batman, and you have Vicky Vale chasing him around, trying to find out the story behind Batman. That's not the way it should be. It should be the other way around. I think if they frame this movie as you have not necessarily Vicky Vale, but if you have the story about the protagonist trying to find out something about the Joker and finding out that nothing is, you know, no information is available beyond that he was the Red Hood and that he was transformed that night into the Joker. So, would love to see it if it was done that way, if the Batman was involved, maybe in a slightly more significant role than he will be in this version. Uh, but yeah, beyond that, I don't need a Joker movie. I don't need to see the definitive telling of how he came to be. Just give me the accident. Give me the aftermath of that accident. And again, that's how Batman 89 failed to me for the Joker, is because they told us too much. I don't want to know that the Joker had a girlfriend, that he was cheating on his boss, that he was a gangster, that was, semi-confident, kind of a whack job, but, capable. I didn't want to know all of that, and that's Batman 89 that fails for me. The Dark Knight, of course, got it right. They didn't do an origin for him, which in a sense was disappointing, but I mean, because I didn't really like, as I've said, numerous times at this point, I didn't like the smeared on makeup. I would have rather had visage of the Joker where it looks like he's been uh, bleached, so to speak. That's more what I was looking for. But the content of the Riddler, the Joker, the content of the Joker there. That's why I love live broadcasting of the movie of the Joker's personality was pretty much on spot. You had him as a force of nature. You had him as someone who was going to go to great lengths to, compete with Batman. He that's the part of the problem with the Dark Knight, though, to me, is arc of the Joker's character that there. I mean, he started as sort of a thug for hire, and he wanted to unmask Batman. And then during the course of the film, he realizes, well, I can have more fun with Batman if nobody knows who he is, and I don't want to ruin that. And so, in a sense, I like that he came to that realization, because that is the Joker. He doesn't want to know who Batman is. He doesn't want to ruin the game. And at the same time, though, we could have started there, and I kind of felt like out there, but that doesn't really diminish The Dark Knight as a great movie. I still love it. Um, it's not. I would probably say it's a little overrated, considering a lot of people have this as #1 on their list greats, and that's fine. It's not a bad movie in any respect for to be in an upper echelon of your favorites. But I probably wouldn't put it that high up. I actually put Batman Begins above The Dark Knight. I think it's a better Batman film, and for the reason is Batman Begins is a Batman movie first and a crime drama second. But for The Dark Knight, it's the opposite. It's a crime drama first and a Batman film second. It's like a crime drama with Batman trappings, where Batman Begins is like a Batman story with crime drama trappings. And I prefer to have the Batman element up front. And I think arguably it's up front more in Batman Begins. But of course, the Joker is a lot of fun in The Dark Knight. Just loved seeing it. And of course, Heath Ledger, may he rest in peace, gave us a great Joker. Memorable. Okay, so we got to move on now. Let's get on to our next. Of course, leave me a note in the comments here. Know what you think about a solo Joker movie. What do you want to see in a solo Joker movie? Next up, we are out the Harley and Joker movie that is now being bandied about. Harley loves Joker, like Johnnie loves Chachi. That's the way this one should go down. So from what I understand, they are going to backburner Gotham City Sirens, which was going to be the Harley, Catwoman, Poison Ivy, possibly Huntress, possibly Batgirl team up, mishmash film that was going to be next for Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, who's of course a standout in the Suicide Squad, and it was going to be directed by David Ayer and backburnered for Joker Loves Harley. At least that's what I'm going to call it from now on. And from what I understand, Gotham City Sirens is still going to be made. Supposedly still with David Ayer directing. I don't know for sure. But this one is getting fast-tracked, and it is going to be directed by John Requa Ficarra. I hope I pronounced those names right. They directed Crazy Stupid Love, I think. It really sounds familiar, but that's what they're being bandied about for. So this, and also Suicide Squad 2 is still going to be in production, I think even before Gotham City Sirens. So they still have plans to move forward with this, Suicide Squad 2 and Gotham City Sirens. But this is getting the main push. And I think that's a good thing. To be honest with you, I think this movie should have been made before Suicide Squad. But I suppose, Suicide Squad is more of a niche thing. I don't know really if anybody even clamored for a Suicide Squad movie. I mean, maybe really inside baseball guys that wanted to, see something different from the EU were probably clamoring for that. But this is basically what you want to see is well, we don't really know that it's going to be an origin because we already seen most of that in Suicide Squad, but that's what Suicide Squad's real purpose for being was to introduce us to the, Harley and Joker relationship. We got a bit of that. We got a little bit of the origin. It's a good thing they're doing this now. I think, you can't go wrong if you're going to adapt Mad Love. They probably are not going to because, like I said, I think they already shown origin as they really are going to. I don't really know that they even need to. they probably have a flashback to Harley being a psychiatrist or psychologist, whatever she was, just to remind the audience of that. But um, this is what we really need because, and of course, they said it's confirmed that Jared Leto and Margot Robbie is going to be reprising their roles, so this is going to be firmly set in the DCEU, unlike the solo Joker origin movie. I think this is a good idea because we really need to cement the Joker and Harley relationship. A lot of people kind of didn't really appreciate what they did there because in Suicide Squad because it would have been more abuse, for lack of a better term, I suppose, between the Joker and Harley. I disagree to an extent. I don't think abuse is really the term you want to use. The thing about their relationship is that to Joker, it's the ultimate joke. He keeps throwing her crumbs of affection and vague reasons for her to latch on to stick around. That's the ultimate joke to the Joker, that he really doesn't, because he's incapable of feeling for anybody, I don't think. I mean, he probably has more feeling for the Batman, that he wants to keep him, not in a romantic way, let's not go there. Only you? No, we're not going to go there. But I think he would rather have Batman be alive than dead, as we were kind of talking in the previous segment. And it's the same thing here, where he really just keeps her around for laughs to amuse himself because he sees that him, and he can keep her twisted around his little finger, but he really doesn't have this romantic investment in her that is the reason that he keeps her around. He's incapable of that. Now, in Suicide Squad, they kind of made it more that he was a Bonnie and Clyde with her, that, that he had ever feelings the Joker can have of love he has for her in this incarnation. I don't really have a problem with that. Kind of see where that makes a little more sense when you're trying to portray these two characters. But if they are to go in a more unhealthy relationship with these two, I don't want to see him physically abusing her. I don't really think that's the way to. Really an idiot. I mean, she's not stupid, the character. She's just, misguided in the sense that she's letting her heart, you know, overrule her judgment because she's gone almost as crazy as him, if not as crazy. But I would say the Joker kind of got the patent on crazy. I mean, that really fits that bill, if you want to say, of the Batman's villains. He's crazy. The others have a method to their madness in other ways, so to speak. And I suppose the Joker does in a case too. But so, if anything, I hope they don't go overboard with that if they're going to make this relationship even more dysfunctional in this next film. I think they should keep it about the level of where they had it in the last film. If anything, you know, the Joker should probably be more concerned with his own well-being, Harley's, that sort of thing. In the animated series, that he wasn't going to come back for her. A lot of times when things went south, and Mad Love, I think, even actually has that as one of the elements in the last act. I haven't read it in a long time, but I remember it being a great story, a landmark story in the Joker's canon, especially stories. That's one of the best. So, I have high hopes for this film. I just hope that, like I said, they don't try to. It's kind of hard to play the middle, but don't try to go too far in either direction. Don't make the Joker overly abusive and deranged in his relationship with Harley. Give us a reason to see why Harley wants to stick around with him, and don't make him such a demon that she's got to be completely crazy to be with him. Also, I imagine, see, what I would really like to see is the Batman having something to do with this film. Now, this is another film where the Batman is probably going to be sidelined or maybe have a cameo. I don't know. I don't know how you do. See, that's the problem. I don't really know why you do Joker movies without Batman. Now, this I can see if you want to get into the origin of the Joker-Harley relationship and you want to explore that a little more, make that a side character. See Batman taking on the Joker. And the little we've heard from Matt Reeves, I don't think the Joker is going to be in that movie, The Batman. Of course, to get slightly sidetracked, Matt Reeves came out saying this week that The Batman will be a standalone movie, and everybody jumped all. What does this mean? Does that mean it's going to take place outside of continuity? Jared Leto won't be the Joker and this and that, but he quickly clarified that he meant that it's not going to have ties to any other film in the DCEU. Wonder Woman's not going to make a cameo. They're not going to talk about what the Flash is doing. It's just going to be Batman doing his thing, and whatever that entails in that film, it's just going to be about Batman. Expected that. I think we all did, really, but we needed him to clarify that from the way he said it, I suppose. But, so this should be, I suppose, the place where we see Batman confront the Joker finally. We didn't see that in Suicide Squad, and we're not going to see it in The Batman. And Joker in this universe, in the DCEU, if you're not going to have Batman confront him at one point, what is the point? What is the purpose? This is the main adversary for Batman, and he's not going to ever see him and come in contact with him. We got a solo Joker movie that's probably not going to have nothing to do with Batman. We're going to have this film that's going to have minor content with Batman. I don't know. I don't know why you do that. It's like having a Lex Luthor movie or having Lex Luthor be a villain, and then Superman is going on to do, Man of Steel 2 and Man of Steel 3 and whatever, and you never have him, face Superman. Of course, he's already faced Lex Luthor in Batman v Superman, and we all seen how that went. What do you want to see in a Joker Harley Quinn movie? I'll tell you one thing I don't want to see. I don't want to see Poison Ivy. Save her for Gotham City Sirens. I don't want this to be like a triangle film. They had some great episodes of Batman the Animated Series, which had Harley and Ivy, interacting and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, I never really seen it. I never really seen the appeal. I think Harley is pretty much only, well, she's best served when she's with the Joker. I don't like her with Poison Ivy. I don't like her alone, really. I mean, to an extent, maybe. That's kind of the way Suicide Squad worked best in that movie, is that the Joker was constantly trying to find her, and that was kind of the narrative, trying to get reunited. That's the reason why that worked so well. If he had nothing to do with that film, it probably wouldn't have worked as well. And so I think you need to have the focus be on Joker and Harley. That's what this movie's supposed to be, and that's what I think it should be. And I think that's what will be very successful for them if they focus on it. Like I said, in the proper context, let's not have it be, too depraved or anything, but it should be a fun relationship, similar to what it was in the Suicide Squad, but just show that the Joker is selfish. Just show that the Joker is, you know, aloof enough that he really doesn't care about what happens to Harley as long as he saves his own skin. That's the kind of stuff that I want to see. That's the relationship I think they have. I don't think it's abuse the way physically, slap her or something. We've seen that, you know, in the comics and the cartoons as well. But it's not something that is, you think of him as some kind of a, you know, abuser, a domestic abuser or something. I don't really see that as being something that I want to see in a Joker-Harley relationship. That's a fringe thing, if anything, in their relationship. It's not something that should really define them as a couple. All right, so we are going to move on here once again. And let me know what you think about the Harley and Joker film next year. Let's jump back to the DC CW verse. I don't even know. We'll talk about some casting news that we really didn't talk about Roundup in a while, but The Flash has cast the elongated man, Ralph Dibny. Hartley Sawyer is going to play the elongated man in the Flash TV series this season, season 4. I'm not familiar with him, but, you know, it looks like they cast somebody that physically resembles Ralph Dibny from the comics, so they get a thumbs up from me there. You know, as I said before, I don't know how they're going to do with special effects and how well they're going to be able to realize elongated man. Maybe they're not going to be able to do him or have him use his powers frequently, you know, which is sort of something, like I said before, that is a problem with Legends of Tomorrow, where we can't see the Atom shrink every episode. We can't see Firestorm, you know, power up every episode. I have a feeling this is going to be the same problem here, where we're going to see maybe a stretched arm once every 2 episodes, and then maybe he'll go to his extremes this season. But anyway, I like the character. I've always liked Elongated Man. Wanted to see him on The Flash. He got to start in the Flash comics, if you don't know. Um, you know, he's an interesting character, kind of like an unsung hero, I guess is the best term, because of Mr. Fantastic being more popular with those powers, and even Plastic Man, I think, is a more famous character with the stretchy powers. But yeah, so looking forward to seeing The Flash season 4 this year, and hopefully Ralph Dibny will not disappoint. All right, we got more news here. Jumping over to the Star Wars side of the galaxy. Let's see. Michael K. Williams has been cut from the Han Solo prequel. The little bit of info I could find said that he was going to play a villain and a human-animal hybrid alien. Not too sure what that was going to be, but yeah, so Ron Howard is really doing a lot of work here to this film. A lot of people are thinking, well, he's shit. A lot of it is going to be retooled, and I think the reason given for Michael's departure was, you know, scheduling conflicts, because now they're going to be doing lots of reshoots and continuing filming, and he's got something else, you know, set up that, you know. So he's going to step out. I don't know what that means for whether he was a main villain or is he just a henchman that can be easily replaced with a few reshoots. I don't know. The film is still untitled. I don't know exactly why at this point. They could just call it Han Solo something or other and put an end to this Han Solo film business. Possibly because from what I remember, this film is going to be, I think, 3 different time periods in Han Solo's life. It's going to be the early part of his life, I suppose, when he meets Chewie and goes off. And then there's a second part where he's going to be with, I guess, Lando and wins the Falcon and this and that. And then there's the third part, I guess. So this villain might only appear in one segment. And you know, the other segment, or perhaps all the way through, but it's going to be Woody Harrelson's character being, or which probably will turn out to be the main villain, I bet. But in any case, yes, lots of reshooting getting done there on that one. News in the Star Wars galaxy. Good news would be confirmed at this point. But an Obi-Wan Solo film is actually being greenlit by Disney. A whole lot of news yet about the story or anything. All we know at this point is director Stephen Daldry is going to direct. And strangely, very strangely, Ewan McGregor's name has not been attached. They haven't confirmed that he's going to reprise the role of Obi-Wan, although he has said on numerous occasions that he wants to return to the role. So I think it's a pretty safe bet that he will be back as Obi-Wan. Some people are saying, oh, maybe this might be a young Obi-Wan prequel where he was, Qui-Gon student or something. Disney probably doesn't want to go back that far, to be honest with you. That's why I don't think that'll happen, at least in the near future. Um, I think it's a done deal because I think many times also Ewan McGregor has said that he was in talks, so to speak. I don't think he could confirm anything because until they confirm it themselves, Disney confirm it. He can't say anything. So I don't think we should worry too much about this. I think for sure Ewan will be back. I'd love to see him back. He was one of the greatest things about the Phantom Menace. I have to say, well, what do you think? I'm going to put the question to the audience. What do you think this solo Obi-Wan film is going to be about? If we can take for granted that it's going to be taking place in between episodes 3 and 4, we have about 20 years to play with, give or take, where Obi-Wan is training and learning the skill of coming back as a Force ghost, and looking over Luke, who will probably be like 10 years old, maybe in this film, 10 or 12. I don't think they're going to make Luke any older. You have to remember also that this is probably the prime age, because Ewan he's about 50-something now, isn't he? This is close to where we have old Obi-Wan in A New Hope. You've got to remember that you don't want to get too close to that either, because that's Alec Guinness' role, and you kind of want to have that separation of a few years so that you can say growing into that role, although he's about as close now as he probably ever will be, Ewan. We still don't know if he's going to have any part in or the episode 9, because some people are saying that's the reason why we haven't gotten any confirmation yet, because something is going to happen with the character of Obi-Wan, possibly played by Ewan McGregor. I'm not sure how they want to handle that either. I really hope the Yoda is the Force Ghost in The Last Jedi. I would like to see Yoda and Luke having a conversation. I don't want to get into that, but the way they got Luke portrayed, where he's given up on the Force and has no interest in being a Jedi anymore, it still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I would like to see maybe Yoda talk him back to sense. I guess they're going to have probably Rey be the one to convince him, but I don't know. It's just I still have misgivings about The Last Jedi, and like I said, I wasn't too crazy about The Force Awakens. I mean, it's a solid film. It's not like a disaster. It just doesn't feel like what I waited all my life for, basically. I mean, I've been waiting since I was for the sequel to Return of the Jedi. My all-time favorite movie is Return of the Jedi. Don't know if they're going to meet those expectations. I doubt it now that they ever can, because they killed off Han Solo before he could have a scene with Luke. Sadly, Carrie Fisher no longer with us, so Leia isn't going to have a big role going forward. They already said they're not going to recast or do any kind of CGI trickery to put her in Episode 9. It's kind of a bittersweet last trilogy that we're stuck with now, because the way that turned out, I don't know. But back to the topic at hand. What do you want to see in a solo Obi-Wan film? To see Darth Maul's revenge. But of course, if the Clone Wars is Rebels, if Rebels is supposed to be, Obi-Wan already killed Darth Maul. And that disappoints me, because that was the most just anticlimactic finale. I mean, I never got a chance to talk about Rebels. I meant to talk about it during, the summer when we were finishing up talking about all the different shows that were wrapping up, and I never really got to Rebels. I meant to, because I watched it all season. And Rebels has been getting better. First season I thought was pretty bad, and it got better as the seasons went on. I thought last season was pretty good. We had some dark things happen. We had uh, the fleet getting together, and some deaths and Kanan having problems as well. He's blind and everything. I mean, stuff that I didn't think was going to happen when this show started. So, I mean, I can't really complain that they haven't. I was hoping they would. But that was the most anticlimactic thing, that they finally had Darth Maul crawling along from the end of the Phantom Menace, where we thought he was dead, or through adversary relationships with his master, Darth Sidious, and he became his own Sith. Through all the times with his brother, uh, Savage, was that his name? That's been a while. I don't remember. But I liked the progression of Maul throughout Rebels, throughout the Clone Wars. They a force still to be reckoned with. And even though he was old and crippled, and Obi-Wan is getting older too, that would be what I think Solo film should have been. The protagonist should have been, the antagonist should have been Darth Maul, and we could finally wrap it up with some great final battle. We could see Ray Park come back. I know he'd probably love it. He would love to come back and get back into makeup again. He still looks great. We see him still doing stunts and stuff in Star Wars Celebration and stuff, and face each other again. No, what did we get? We got Darth Maul finally finds Obi-Wan, sitting at a campfire. Obi-Wan makes one thrust and Darth Maul's dead. That is the worst anticlimactic for two adversaries I've ever seen. Bar none. Bar none. Darth Maul is dispatched like the Cairo swordsman in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Is that fair? Fair to a character of Darth Maul's stature? I mean, they built him up. I mean, he was great in The Phantom Menace. A lot of people want to criticize The Phantom Menace. You can't criticize Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace. He was great. He was a little cocky at the end, and that's what led to his downfall, but he was a great character there, and they only improved on his character taking him through the Clone Wars and Rebels. And what happens? He gets skewered, and it's all over. It was just terrible. It was a terrible waste of Maul. And I guess maybe they were afraid, movie fans are not going to want to see all of Rebels and Clone Wars to try to find out what happened to Maul, why he's got, metallic legs or whatever. But, it was a natural. It was a natural thing for a Obi-Wan Solo film's adversary to be Darth Maul. He was the one that, was sort of his dark opposite. They were both apprentices at the same time. They both came up about the same time. They both had the same kind of training from birth. And now you have, just the legacy of Maul just dropped like a bad habit. That's my rant. I will never be satisfied with the way they killed off Maul. Maybe they also don't want to put Maul in film because you're going to have people say, oh, Phantom Menace, and, we get the crybabies that don't like Phantom Menace and don't like the prequels, and to have any kind of prequel element in this is going to be scoffed at. I do think that they should definitely keep Darth Vader out of this film. Cameo about the size of Rogue One, maybe. Even that would be a little too long. But you don't want to have Obi-Wan and Darth Vader cross paths in this film. I think you definitely don't want to, because confrontation was so strong was you built up that 20-year animosity, and Vader just wants to take his head off at this point. A lot of people are like, well, Vader really, he had a soft spot for Obi-Wan. He didn't really want to kill him. Yeah, I don't believe that. I think he had 20 years of hate and suffering that his head off, and he, accomplished that. But having them confront each other, because you could have a little leeway there and say, when Vader says, the last time I sensed this presence in the Force was in the presence of my old master, you could say, oh, well, the last time he met Obi-Wan was not in Revenge of the Sith. It probably would be exciting, though, to have them meet, and you could see Obi-Wan, in his reaction to Vader being that close to him. Because when we see face to face in A New Hope, you really don't get the sense that Obi-Wan is, too overcome by seeing what's become of Anakin. He's sort of, at this point, like, reconciled to the fact that, my old friend's in there, but you kind of can see it in his face, Obi-Wan. He's kind of, I don't want to say given up on him, but he kind of just doesn't feel that Vader is Anakin anymore. And so it would also go, I'm changing my own mind as I'm talking about this, but it would also go a long way if we do see Obi-Wan and Vader confront each other in this film. I mean, I'm not talking about a knockdown, drag-out lightsaber duel, although I suppose we should see Obi-Wan having a lightsaber duel in this film. I think we definitely should. So if Vader does become something of a protagonist in this, something of an antagonist in this film, I'm getting them both confused today for some reason, but if Vader is the antagonist, they should be a lightsaber duel. Now, I don't think it's going to be something on the level of Revenge of the Sith, probably more along the lines of A New Hope, where it's just maybe a minor skirmish, a hallway skirmish, and not necessarily a knockdown, drag out, hitting the four corners of the earth type duel. But it could go a long way, because the only thing I don't like, Revenge of the Sith review for you, let's just say the only thing I didn't like about Revenge of the Sith is we didn't have Obi-Wan trying to talk Vader down very much. I think Lucas dropped the ball on that one, because in Return of the Jedi, when Luke is trying to sense to Anakin, he says, Vader says, Obi-Wan once thought as you do. That in Revenge of the Sith, Luke says, come with me. Now, that is all said to him, but it's said to him by Padme, which understandably has that role where she's saying, come back with me, don't go through with this, and come and raise our child together. You'd expect his wife to say that, so that's fine. But then when we get to Obi-Wan, I think Lucas, realized that we would be having repetitive dialogue if Obi-Wan's whole overture to Anakin was, come back with me, you can be a Jedi, stay in the Jedi Order, and you'll be a master, and you'll be, the chosen one, the way we're supposed to be. We didn't get that because it would be repetitive, I think. And so the problem then falls to the only time we really hear Obi-Wan really saying anything of to, so to speak, to Anakin is when he says, I failed you. I failed you. And at that point, he doesn't even think Anakin is reachable at that point. He just is giving up on him there, too. So it makes it feel a little bit like Obi-Wan gave up on him a little too early. Of course, he had reason to. I mean, Anakin has killed younglings at this point, and, feasible to the normal person that this person will come back from the dark side. That's why Yoda and Obi-Wan in the old trilogy, in the original trilogy, pretty much treat Luke like, look, this guy's bad. There's nothing we can do about it except take him out. So you really should have that mindset that you're going to take him out, because you really can't, talk to him, talk sense to him, to use that term. But so anyway, I guess I could see maybe Vader and Obi-Wan confronting each other at this point. If it were the case, I think this would have to take place about 5 years after Revenge of the Sith, because then you do have that it's been a long time. I've been waiting for you, Obi-Wan. Tarkin's line of surely he must be dead by now. This suggests that if they did cross paths again after Revenge of the Sith, it probably was within the first 5 years. See him, and then 2 years later there was A New Hope. So if they do go down that path where Vader and Obi-Wan confront each other, long story short, I guess I could go with it, provided that they have Obi-Wan trying to talk him down. I don't think they will. I think that's kind of counterproductive at this point. Probably for the best that they just keep them separated and find a new antagonist, which I don't know who the antagonist would be if it's not Maul. Dooku's dead. Grievous is dead. Grievous was his only other great adversary, Obi-Wan, of Revenge of the Sith. Dooku, I always felt was more of Anakin's adversary. That was his coming of age type, you know, uh, rite of passage. I don't really see him as Obi-Wan's, you know, adversary. So even if they could have done something with Dooku, which they couldn't because, of course, Christopher Lee has passed on, and he was already killed in Revenge of the Sith. That's out. So who do we have as an adversary? I mean, you could go to the Clone Wars, look for someone. As I said, I don't have a good working memory of the Clone Wars. I know he had an interesting romance with Satine, which may or may not be interesting. I think I've said it before. I definitely don't see Obi-Wan as the romantic type. I really hated that they did that with where he says to Satine at one point, "Oh, I would have given up the Jedi Order for you." That's not Obi-Wan. That's not Obi-Wan. My Obi-Wan wouldn't say that. For him, he eats, breathes, and lives the Jedi Order. There is no other way for him but the Jedi Order. Now, of course, he can have romantic feelings for someone. That's not an issue. But his mind will override his. He will not give up the Jedi Order. Otherwise, his preaching to Anakin is hollow. I mean, he tells Anakin, you made a commitment to the Order, a commitment not easily broken. And to have him say, "Oh, I would have given up the Jedi Order for you," that's not Obi-Wan. And he says to Anakin, "You'll be expelled from the Jedi Order." Or the Jedi, before, duty. That's not Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan wouldn't do that. So that's why I don't really think they should put Satine in this one. Maybe as long as they don't have it as a love affair, that there's no romantic rekindling. If she's an old friend, maybe. I don't even think really they should go there. But if they want to, just as long as they don't make it romantic, I'd be fine with it, I suppose. But I don't think they should go there. Should Obi-Wan leave Tatooine? That's another question. Um, I definitely think the bulk of the film should take place on Tatooine. If he leaves, it should be for a very quick jaunt or whatever. I mean, I can't see what would take him from Tatooine, because the further out he leaves Tatooine, he's not going to be able to evade Imperial detection. See, he's in the Outer Rim, so there's not much of an Imperial presence there. I mean, they have basically, a small presence, let's just put it that way. And so to have him explore further out, you're going to, have him come across Imperials, and that would be a problem that he couldn't stay hidden. Vader or the Emperor, they're going to sense him. And Vader, of course, is going to stay far away from Tatooine. And of course, I think they definitely should have him be in the cantina. That would be great if they could recreate the cantina, because he seems to know that place pretty well, doesn't he? Now, I don't think, a lot of wiseacres want to say, "Oh, he goes there for a drink all the time," and this and that. But I think he's gone there for transportation before. And so that's why I say maybe if he has some kind of quick jaunt off-world and has some kind of a mission that takes him a little bit out of, into the Outer Rim still, but further away from Tatooine, that probably is something, that I could see, because it seems from that exchange he has with Luke that he's been in the cantina before. He's hired passage before from Tatooine. Also, I think Joel Edgerton should come back as Uncle Owen. I've said this before, I think, as well. I'm not sure, because I would really like to do a review on these things. I should probably just do an off-the-cuff review on these things. But Uncle Owen, we really didn't get enough of Uncle Owen in the in Attack of the Clones. I know we'll probably be like, well, just how much can you do with Uncle Owen? I mean, he's a farmer. He's kind of a old grouch. There's not much you can do with him. But part of what bothered me about Attack of the Clones, and as I said before, Attack of the Clones is my least favorite I've done, or Lucas could have done, that was kind of untapped. But we didn't see the, sort of rivalry or the confrontation between Obi-Wan and Uncle Owen. We don't really see Owen. Owen doesn't even meet Obi-Wan. So we really don't see any of that. And I suppose it could be held over for this film, where we see how, protective he is of Luke. Originally, he was to be protective of Anakin, and he doesn't want Anakin to leave. he says, you know, your uncle was afraid that he'd follow Obi-Wan on some damn fool idealistic crusade. So, you know, we really didn't get that Owen holds Obi-Wan responsible for what happened to Anakin. And, you know, he was a stepbrother, and that's kind of the problem where we have it that he only knew him for a brief time. That's why I was hoping he would have been a bigger character in Attack of the Clones, because you don't really get that sense that he should feel as much for Anakin as he does, that he should be to Obi-Wan as he is in that film. This would give a great opportunity, would set a stage for him to be able to, you know, show the real reasons why he's so afraid of Luke leaving the farm. He's not just being overprotective. He's got a reason. He's got a good reason. He's afraid Obi-Wan is going to lead Luke down the Primrose Path, and happened to him has happened to Anakin. He's got too much of his father in him. Well, that's what I'm afraid of. And that's a great line. It's going to have so much more meaning the more weight we put behind the confrontation between Owen and Obi-Wan. So I would really love to see them two together. Of course, two great actors. Would love to see them in the scene together. Of course, bring back Beru as well. She only got one line in Attack of the Clones, which was really sad as well. But, you know, we didn't get to know her that much as well. So, what do you think a Obi-Wan Solo film should be? Let us know. And put your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know, because I don't get a whole lot of comments on these live videos. And that's part of the point of doing them live, is you want to see some in the chat. Couple of other things I want to hit here. We've already been going almost an hour. Might go a little over time here because I waxed eloquent so well on those subjects. But this is another thing I want to touch on briefly in the news this week. There is supposedly going to be a reboot, a film starring John Cena and Kevin Hart. No! Oh, why do they want to burn my childhood dreams to the ground, my childhood favorites? Now, it's bad enough profane R-rated comedy take on any 70s, 80s, 90s sitcom or action movie ever taken off. Some would argue maybe 21 Jump Street, but, you know, I wasn't a fan of 21 Jump Street, so it didn't really make an impact on me. But you had Chips, yeah, which was, you know, god awful. I mean, just looking at that promo made my skin crawl. And Luis Pena deserves so much better. Or is it Michael Pena? I'm thinking he's Luis from Ant-Man. But anyhow, he deserves so much better. The Baywatch film sunk and stunk. The only thing I could, you know, there's so many tried and failed. You know, Skarsky and Hutch. The Dukes of Hazzard, I think, was, you know, made minorly memorable because, you know, Jessica Simpson washed a car in a pink bikini. I mean, that was the only thing that I think I remembered from that. Maybe that was a minor hit, but if anything, it's got Jessica Simpson to thank for that. And I've got nothing against Kevin Hart, got nothing against John Cena. Both very talented in their given professions. Kevin Hart, I think, is really funny. I personally was hoping Kevin Hart would be in a Ghostbusters reboot as sort of a, you know, his manic intensity and having him face ghosts. That's my dream project for Kevin Hart. The guy is great. John Cena, I think he'll be a great action hero. He should be in the movies at this point. I mean, you know, The Rock wasn't really the greatest thespian either when he first started out, and he's gotten better. You know, Dave Bautista is doing well. There's a place for John Cena in the movies. I don't have any problem with that. Heck, maybe you could put him in a Ghostbusters movie too. That would probably be pretty funny. That would probably be his, you know, his calling, I think. But not Knight Rider, no. I don't know exactly how this was. I suppose David Hasselhoff gave his blessing. David Hasselhoff, are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? Do you want to be sent to the mental institution? Because you turn in your kit keys right now. I love Knight Rider. Love Knight Rider ever since I was a kid. You know, again, being like 5, 6 years old when Knight Rider first came out. Love the show. Watch it every Sunday. Watch it every Sunday on my kit tricycle. I sat there on that tricycle and I still have it, thank God, to this day, where it's been beaten up and battered. But the kit tricycle, I sat there and I watched Knight Rider every Sunday night. Loved it. Loved the show then. Love the show now. Can't see them doing this to Knight Rider. A-Team, even though that wasn't that great, it wasn't a comedy. It wasn't, you know, made to be a spoof. This is they're actively going to spoof Knight Rider. Why? Why? To ask the question Nancy Kerrigan asked all those years ago, why? And then you have I don't know what's gonna is Kevin Hart gonna be the new Michael Knight, and is John Cena gonna be Kit's voice, or vice versa? I'm thinking they're probably gonna make Kevin Hart the Michael Knight because, you know, he's gonna do the crazy reactions to Kit, I suppose, and you know, John Cena has more the monotone voice, I guess, for Kit. Possibly the other way around. John Cena will be an action hero, the way Michael Knight was, and Kevin Hart will be the wisecracking and profane Kit. What's so hard about this? Why can't you just put David Hasselhoff back in the driving seat of Kit, bring back William Daniels, God bless him, he's with us, of Kit yet again, do a reunion movie. I know they did a reunion movie, Knight Rider 2000. It was pretty bad. I personally didn't care for it. I know a lot of people said that they liked it. I thought it was stupid, the way they killed off Devin Miles, the way they had Michael Knight sort of, you know, was a depressed case. I don't know. It just didn't speak to me as a long-time Knight Rider fan. And they tried to pass the torch to a woman actress. It's been a while now. And that she would be the new driver of Kit. You know, they kind of based it on the original premise of Knight Rider, where she was presumed dead or whatever. What's so hard about having, I mean, having Michael Knight, you know, David Hasselhoff is still in good shape. He's not, you know, he's not with a cane yet. I mean, you put him behind the wheel of Kit, he can still turbo boost. He can still, you know, hit super pursuit mode. There's no reason really to recast the role yet, I don't think. Now, let's say you don't want to go that road, and let's say, you know, you want a Michael Knight who's going to be able to jump out of the car and punch the bad guys in the face and do all that stuff that Michael Knight did in the TV show. Make Michael Knight, make David Hasselhoff the new Devin Miles. Devin was an important part of that show. I loved Devin. Of course, that, you know, he's no longer with us, and you know, he can have no part in a Knight Rider reboot. But that's what was so great about the show. You know, it's kind of cheesy. You know, it's the '80s, and it was a product of the '80s, and keep it that way. But play it straight. You don't play it as a spoof. You don't play it as, oh, this is something to be laughed at. No, people, of course, will take the, you know, the Snickers where they come, but you say real. They're obviously not going to do it with this. As I've said a couple of times before, Knight Rider, they tried to reboot it with Michael Knight, you know, David Hasselhoff having a son who would be the next Michael Knight. I, you know, they tried with that one, and I really wish that they actually kept that one going, because I think that was the closest we'll get to a decent sequel to Knight Rider. I didn't like the way David Hasselhoff still had nothing to do. I mean, they for some reason, David Hasselhoff wants Michael Knight, whenever he's having Michael Knight in the show, to have as little to do with Knight Rider as possible. And to me, Michael Knight and David Hasselhoff are interchangeable. That they have to be in the driver's seat. As I said, the only way you could have somebody replace Michael Knight as the driver of Kit is to put, you know, him in charge of Flag, have him be Flag, and have his son, preferably, you know, if not maybe another character that gets dubbed Michael Knight, be the driver of Kit. But so far, David Hasselhoff has removed himself so much. In the Knight Rider reboot TV show, Michael Knight, the new Michael Knight, but he didn't have anything to do with him. He was in one episode, I think, and he sort of just passed the torch and said, you know, do this the way I did it when I was your age, and then he went off. And, it's just disappointing. There's no legacy with that. There's no legacy. Well, that's why when the new MacGyver show came out, I applaud the new MacGyver show because, well, they're doing their own thing, but they're trying to keep it about as close to the premise of the original as possible while bringing it up to date. Now, the other Knight Rider show tried to do that, but like I said, it disappointed me that David Hasselhoff interest in having an active role in the show. And of course, as I said before, they had way too many characters on that show, and they finally decided to weed them out at the halfway point of that season, but it was too little too late. But anyway, I think we're doomed to never have a good Knight Rider reboot. Like I said, that TV show from 2009, I believe it was the closest we'll probably get. And had that stuck around a little bit longer, because they had a handful of good episodes. The first half of the season stunk, and I think they were growing into a good groove. Um, I can't remember the name of the actor that played the new Michael Knight. He didn't make the biggest impression, to be totally honest. Maybe he would have improved. I mean, let's face it, David Hasselhoff wasn't a actor. This kid definitely wasn't going to get mistaken for, Laurence Olivier, this new Michael Knight actor. But at least, you give it a try. Deanna Russo, of course, beautiful girl. I thought she was great as what would be the next Bonnie, I suppose. They never really got that far, I don't think, but she would have made a great Bonnie had they carried on. Um, the guy playing her father was Senator Kelly. I can't remember his name right now, but so they had a pretty good cast, and they could have done something with that show. They failed to really find an audience, I guess, and it just disappeared after one season. Maybe they should bring that back if they're going to do anything to bring back Knight Rider. Don't make it an R-rated spoof. Don't put, Kevin Hart in the driver's seat, for heaven's sake. Don't put John Cena in the driver's seat, even though maybe that would be preferable. But jeez, just bring back David Hasselhoff, put him in the back seat of the kit, bring back William Daniels, if you must. Let Michael Knight pass the torch once again, and who knows? Maybe we'll have a decent Knight Rider reboot in my lifetime. I don't. I personally don't think we will. But what do you think? What do you think about Knight Rider? Are you interested in a Knight Rider film, which would reboot the show as a makes my skin crawl. Of course, you got also, like I said, do it as the MacGyver TV show did, and just reboot it flat out. They tried to do that. They kind of made it a passing of the torch legacy type show, but one way or the other, just play it straight. That's the only thing I have to remind, or the only advice I have for the producers of this Knight Rider project. Play it straight. All right, let me just touch on a few things here. A couple of words on the WWE. And of course, one of my favorites here, Big Cass with Enzo, that rivalry that's been going on. Big Cass is out with an injury now because on Raw, he was legitimately injured in a fight with Enzo, Brooklyn Street fight. And I was hoping this was going to be the big cap off to storyline. This would be the big finisher because the Big Show was, injured or whatever, and his arm wasn't serving him well or whatever in that fight in SummerSlam. This Brooklyn Street fight would have been the big fight that would have ended this rivalry probably, and maybe Enzo would be able to go off and do something bigger and better. Cass maybe would be able to do something bigger and better, but legitimately tearing his ACL doesn't sound good. So the prognosis is, of course, 7 to 10 months he's going to need to rehab the injury, and well, you can't teach that. Also, sad news here for us Patriots fans over here in New England. Julian Edelman suffered the same injury, an ACL tear in his right knee as well, during Friday's preseason win over the Lions, and he will be out for the season. I can't stress too much, though, because I know Bill Belichick, the greatest of all time quarterback, the greatest of all time coaches. I mean, Tom Brady is the greatest of all time quarterbacks. Bill Belichick is the greatest of all time coaches. He can plug anybody into that slot, literally, and get some real, production out of them. So I'm going to try not to panic about this one. I think our chances are still good for the Patriots this upcoming season. And we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, in our live broadcasts. Football season going to be gearing up in a couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to that. Summer's almost over. Kind of sad because, we enjoy the summer when we have it, but I'm never too sad because the fall brings us the NFL. I'm a big fan of the NFL. Not a huge sports fan, but all fan, pretty much. All right, so I guess that's about going to wrap it up here for tonight. We've got we've been going on for quite some time. All right, if you enjoyed the show, let me know and drop me a comment there. I've been working on Bullets Bourbon issue number 5, big issue number 5. We've got, it's going to be titled, I'm going to break the news now, unless you bought Street of Dreams and you read it and you could see the coming attractions, but it's going to be called Bullets Bourbon Casebook 5, 1 bourbon, 1 scotch, and 1 Miller. That signals the return of Detective Scotch, who is going to, once again, plague poor Bullets Bourbon. He's his rival, so to speak, as a private eye. It's always fun to see them interact. I have a fun time writing them, too, and their chemistry. It's difficult to write Scotch in it all the time. A couple of issues so far, but it's fun to see him when I can add him to the show. And, of course, this next issue is going to be very... we have Bullets Bourbon in disguise. That's the way we left him in issue 4. Giving you a brief glimpse here of what to expect. And a big action set piece that's in the middle of the issue, which I'm sure you're going to love. See, the first issue of this of Dreams, which you can see right there in front of you, the first issue was pretty much building up. It's like George Lucas said, you have to have a pointer scene in every story, and that's a lot of what the first issue in this arc is, Street of Dreams, is to build up the story, lay the groundwork. I think that's an important thing to do when you're a storyteller, when you're a writer, because a lot of people I've noticed when I've been listening to a lot of on the Defenders, and if you want to check out my review of the Defenders, my spoiler review, I'll try to put a card up for that. I did that video. A lot of people are complaining about the Defenders, saying, oh, the first episode is so boring. I couldn't sit through it, and it's terrible. But, you had to set it up. You had to find out where everybody picked up from, where we left them off. And you have to set up what's going to happen next with Elektra and Alexandra and all this. All that stuff needed to happen. You needed to set it all up. And so I'm willing to sit through setup. I'm willing to set the table before I sit down and eat hearty. So I think a lot of people need to be patient with things like, in stories and fiction. You can't just jump straight to the action. And I kind of did that the same way here with Street of Dreams. And it starts off with an action scene, but there's, with some minor action, but the real action is to be had in the second act. That's what the second act is for. The first episode, the first act, you lay down the groundwork. Second episode, you kick it up, and in the third act, you have the resolution. This one, of course, is the 3-act structure. First one, Street of Dreams. Second one, 1 bourbon, 1 scotch, 1 Miller. Of course, the Miller in that title is Desiree Miller, the object of Bullet's affection in this story. And the third act is going to be called When the Night Comes, which is the overall title of this arc. That's why it says on the cover there, Act 1 of When the Night Comes. So I'm really excited about getting the story out. This is one of my favorite stories, as I've said before. I mean, like I said, you love all your stories, but this is one of the ones I think I really did. If I can toot my horn a little bit, toot my own horn, I think this one came out really good. So if you want to check out any Bullets Bourbon adventures, just check my website in the description below. order there from Indie Planet publisher. I'm a self-published cartoonist. And, you know, just get in on the ground level there with the first issue if you want. You know, made the first issue so that you can jump right into the universe. You don't have to be too confused about who everybody is. It should get you up to speed on the way everybody is in relation to each other, all the characters. I think at any point in the series so far, and pretty much still be able to understand what's going on. So that'll about wrap it up here for tonight. Let us see next week. Probably we'll see you again on Saturday. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to give a channel update here, but I really don't have anything planned. I gotta get another review going. I don't know. Like I said last time, I was thinking about maybe Rocky, the Rocky franchise. I don't know. A lot of Batman movies. We talked a lot of Batman today. I would like to maybe do a review on one or more of the Batman films. Maybe I should just do a live, uh, you know, video on reviewing the Batman films the way I did on the MCU. We still didn't do that for Spider-Man, which I had planned as well. Also, I did want to do a Star Wars review of the Phantom Menace. But that's why I said usually when I do these reviews and do them recorded and not live, they tend to get better views. So probably if I'm going to do any of these, you know, franchise reviews, I'm probably going to do them as scripted and not live. Especially in a couple of weeks once these back, I'm going to go back to doing the weekly update the episodes, you know, my reviews of Supergirl and Flash and Legends of Tomorrow and Arrow and Gotham and Inhumans and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when it comes back. Oh, this is going to be to talk about. And of course, I'll probably still tackle Riverdale and give my 2 cents about that. All right, so coming to you live from Stately Torch Tower, this is Johnny Torch reminding you, keep the flame burning brightly